What's up everybody, Rob here. So this is the start of a new direction for my channel. Now if you're interested in the stuff I've been doing previously, things about history, especially military history, weapons, HEMA, that sort of thing, art, culture, mythology, bodybuilding, anything of that nature, I'm still going to be doing that. That's not going to change at all, so don't worry about it. But I've been thinking about this for a while, and I figured that the time is right for me to really just express my opinion and throw my hat in the ring as far as one of my great interests, and that is politics. Specifically politics, pop culture, cultural society at large, that sort of thing. And really this video is just an introduction to that sort of, that particular subject. Now this particular video is just a general overview of my belief systems, what I believe in, and just really what you can come to expect from me. Say a particular news item, a particular event happens, a particular news item occurs, what you can expect my particular opinion on that to be. So in order to do that, I'm going to be taking the political compass test. Now I have taken the political compass test previously. I took it about 10 years ago actually, right out of college. Yeah, it was right. It was exactly 10 years ago that I graduated college. At that point, I was actually somewhat to the left. I was, if you're familiar with the political compass, you have, it's a double axis. It's a two-axis chart. It's a T-shaped chart thingy. I was a history major, not a math guy. Work with me, people. And it measures how far to the left or to the right someone is, or it also shows how much libertarian or how much authoritarian a person is. I was 3 points to the left, 2 points authoritarian. So in that regard, I was somewhat, I was pretty much a moderate leftist. This was about 10 years ago. Now my political views over time have radically shifted. A lot of the reason for this is that you can say it was influence of professors in school. I mean, it's a college, it's of course going to be leaning somewhat to the left. Now this was right before the big SJW wave that hit, I want to say about 7 or 8 years ago. Like, I got out of college right before that hit, so in that massive wave of that ideology hit colleges, so I was spared that. But ever since I graduated from college, my views have been going more and more to the right and more libertarian. So really, this is just to establish a baseline for all of you guys of what you can expect from me, and I just figured it'd be a fun thing to do. So, yeah, let's go see where I am. Okay, so I'm just going to be using my camera as a way to just show what's on the screen here. If anybody could tell me what software I can use to, because I have no idea how to do that. I am completely inept at technology. What software I can use to show what's on the screen and be able to display what's going on there and save it directly to the computer itself without having to set up a camera. That would be greatly appreciated. Yes, I'm completely inept. You're judging me right now. Please stop doing that. Also, whatever software, something open source, because I am super cheap. But then again, anybody who knows my channel, well, you kind of already knew that. So anyway, let's get this done. We'll see how it works, and you'll learn a little bit more about my political views. Okay, so number one, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Well, first off, globalization is inevitable. It's pretty much already happened. Should it serve humanity rather than the interests of economic globalization, it's economic globalization, so I'm figuring it would, I'm a free market person, so it benefits whoever is, putting the money out there to risk it. So, should it benefit, and another thing too, transnational corporations, they're made up of people. So, if should it serve people or this other group of people? It doesn't even make sense to me. So I'm just going to go with disagree. I will always support my country, whether it is right or wrong. Well, I would have to, how do you define right or wrong? It's nothing is simply black and white like that, but I would generally stand by my country as much as is possible, unless they go flat out totalitarian. But yeah, I'm going to stand by my country, but yeah, it's not black and white, right or wrong here. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it is foolish to be proud of it. I strongly disagree. You can be certainly proud of the accomplishments of your nation. That's nothing particularly wrong with that. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't necessarily room for improvement somewhere, or you have to agree with everything about your nation, but you should be proud of the accomplishments that it has done. A race has many superior qualities compared to other races. Strongly disagree. Racism, judging someone by race, skin color, ethnicity is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Just, yeah, ridiculous. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. As someone who plays Warhammer 40k, I have to disagree with that, because they might also be your enemy as well, and it's entirely possible for 3 different sides to all mutually hate each other, so no. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. I'm going to agree slightly. If by international law you mean the UN is a completely corrupt and morally bankrupt organization, and I have no particular interest in what they have to say on pretty much anything. I mean, they pointed Saudi Arabia to the Women's Rights Council, so yeah, there's that opinion. So there you go. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I strongly agree with that, actually. I'm more worried about the echo chamber, because people tend to only hear what they want to hear, and they treat it as a form of entertainment. So yeah, that could be somewhat of a problem, and by somewhat I mean like a major one. Okay, so here we go. Now we're talking about economies. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. More by class than by... I strongly disagree with that. A low-class American and a high-class American have more in common than 2 working-class people from 2 completely different cultures. Yeah, people are divided more by class. So yeah, now I disagree with that. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Well, if we're talking about governments, yes, unemployment is should be a function of the free market. It shouldn't be a function of government at all. Inflation is a government thing, so yes, I'm going to have to agree on that. So the government, yeah, they should be controlling inflation much more than unemployment. Unemployment's a market thing, not a government thing. Because corporations cannot be entrusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. You know what? I actually am fine with it, because as much as I do like property rights, and as much as I do like the free market, actually, really, companies have had a track record of, say, dumping toxic waste into, say, a river or something like that, and yeah, there needs to be regulations about that sort of thing. So yeah, I agree with that. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need, is a fundamentally good idea. Strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. No. Communism bad. Marxism bad. No. It is a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. I disagree. I mean, look, people are buying it. That means there's a demand for it. If people are buying something, that means they want it. Nobody's stopping you from, collecting rainwater. Actually, some places they do that, which is way, truly unacceptable. That is massive government overreach. But the point is, you can totally gather your own water if you want and filter it yourself. I mean, it's not hard to do that. Yeah, it's a consumer product because the market wants it, because that's what people want. There you go. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly disagree. Free market, yes, it can be bought and sold. Yes, it's a consumer product. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. I disagree. I don't strongly disagree, because, I mean, there is something to be said about someone who simply manipulates money and doesn't do anything. Are they really contributing to society? But at the same time, that's more of a sentimentality of a bygone age, I guess, where people worked with their hands and all that stuff. But, again, people are willing to, put their money in the stock market or a banking institution and hope to get a return on it. It's a product that people want so much. So what? That's their choice. It's a market thing. It's a free market thing. Yeah, I'm fine with it. Protectionist is sometimes necessary in trade. I somewhat disagree with this too. I don't know enough about protectionism in and of itself, but generally I'm a free markets kind of a person, and I just say let the goods flow freely and let the market determine what's going on there, and I don't think the government should be involved if at all possible. So yeah, so I disagree with that. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver profit to its shareholders. Well, I agree with that, because the main issue with that I see here is that should they have a response, as long as they're not breaking laws. They're not breaking laws, they're not infringing on the rights of another person. Really, no, they're not morally obligated to solve social ills. It's not up to, say, Google or Apple or GE or any other company to right the wrongs of the past. It's their job is to make money for their shareholders, and yeah, go do that. The rich are too highly taxed. I actually happen to agree with this. Now, I am not of the wealthy class, but actually rich people pay close to half of the taxes in this country. And I personally am in favor of a flat tax. Just everybody, 10% or 15%. You just send a check in, and that whatever you make, you send in a check for 10% or 15% of that directly to the Treasury, and that's it. And I think rich people are, they're taking on a much higher amount than I think is fair. Demonizing the rich is not going to get us out of any sort of economic crisis. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Strongly agree. It's anything that requires the services of another person is a market good, and you get what you pay for. It's a cold reality of life, but hey, the free market has given us untold amounts of prosperity, and I'm actually fine with that. I may not like the end results, but on principle, I can't say I have any particular issue with that. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I agree. Mostly for things that could get somebody killed, like medications or something like that. You should absolutely. There should be truth in. There should be truth in advertising as far as that goes, or something like a car, that it maintains proper safety standards, and that the company's not lying about this. I'm perfectly fine with that. A lot of times I do want to leave it to the market, but, a little bit of government interventionism here and there, I'm not going to complain about. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create. I'm going to say disagree, because look, if they're going to, a monopoly is usually a government created thing. Every time a government adds a regulation, that adds on more of a burden. Every government regulation pretty much is it's just another cost onto a company. Smaller companies can't handle it, and then basically you just create a monopoly because they can't compete with the larger companies that can handle this sort of thing. So, and if a company does form a monopoly, well, then they're either selling a really great product that everybody wants to buy, or they're going to be taken down by a competitor who can provide that service better and faster. Eventually the market will correct itself. The freer the market, the freer the people. I strongly agree. I mean, economic liberty is probably the single greatest cornerstone of liberty. Some of your personal social values. Okay, this should be interesting. Abortion, when a woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I somewhat disagree. I am anti-abortion. I am pro-life. However, I am in favor of the caveat of rape as well. So for that alone, I disagree with this particular assessment. But just I am a very pro-life individual. All authority should be questioned. I strongly agree. Question everybody, question everything all the time. There is to be no, nothing is sacrosanct. Everything that can be questioned should be questioned. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Okay, now this is from, well, this is from the Bible. And the idea of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth is that retribution has to be equivalent. It doesn't mean that, you know, if you poke out somebody's eye, that person gets his eye removed. It's that it doesn't escalate beyond that. So if an eye was removed, then only an eye can be removed, not an eye must be removed. So it's a way of limiting, that at least the original intent was limiting, but limiting of retribution. However, in modern terminology, it's basically on revenge, and actually I'm fine with that, you know. Like goes to like. You know, like what you do to someone should happen to you. Yeah, I'm actually generally in favor of that. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. You know, in an ideal world, I would agree with that. However, I really don't care. Also, like, I really have no particular opinion on this one way or another. I'm going to go with agree. I'm going to agree with that just because, just on principle of, well, my general free market approach. Look, if nobody wants to see anything, see a particular set of items or particular shows in a theater, it's not the taxpayer's responsibility to prop it up. If you don't want to, if nobody wants to see your product, well, then it shouldn't be out there. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I actually have to disagree with this because, well, we're dealing with children here, and children, well, they're not going to show up in school if they're not forced to do it. They're just going to go wandering around town and get into trouble. So, yeah, just if nothing else for my own sanity, yeah, get them in school, keep them there, and yeah, we can at least have an educated population. Now, we need massive school reform, not only in relation to school spending and all that, but also what is taught and how it's taught. You know, we'll get into. I'll do a video on that eventually. But yeah, I really do think school should be compulsory. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Strongly disagree. What do you mean own kind? That's the whole ethno-state alt-right thing, which I despise. Stupidity. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. You know what? I'm going to say disagree. Abuse, especially of children, has no place in our society. That being said, if you like want to whack one of them in the back of the head, little brats, every now and then, you know what? I was a substitute teacher for a few years, and you know what? I've been tempted. I've been tempted. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Just right there in the back of the head. Right there. Yeah, so I'm going to disagree on principle, but I can totally understand you need to smack some of them around every now and then. It is natural for children to keep secrets from their parents. Yeah, I strongly agree. Yeah, everybody has secrets from everybody else. I mean, that's, yeah, got no problem with that. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. I strongly agree. I am in favor of full legalization of marijuana. The harder drugs, I haven't really put much thought into, so I don't know, I could be swayed either way. But marijuana, I really don't see it as any different from alcohol. And the war on drugs we have, it's probably one of the biggest wastes of money in American history, and we should just do away with it. It's just destroyed more lives and cost more money than any good it's produced. It's just not worth it. The prime function of schooling should be to equip future generations to find jobs. I disagree with that. The idea of schooling is to give them basic skills to survive life, which may include a job, yes, but also should be there to teach them how to think properly. Mostly involving how to question things, how to think critically, and how to avoid indoctrination in well, groupthink. So yeah, I do disagree with that. Getting a job is part of it, but it's not its sole purpose or its main purpose. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I strongly disagree with that. The idea of the government allowing one group of people to determine who is worthy of reproducing, that's a totalitarian nightmare that I want no part of. Like how do you define serious inheritable disabilities? I mean, I have my hair's been falling out since I was 17 years old. Is that going to be a terrible thing? Where do you draw the line? So, and just on principle alone, I just don't like the government telling people what they should or should not do, as long as it does not interfere with the rights of others. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Oh, I'm halfway in between agree and disagree. I mean, it depends on what you mean by discipline. If by discipline you mean complete and utter obedience to authority at any and all times, no, I'm not in favor of that, though that is important. Listen to your teachers, listen to your parents, listen to the police when they tell you to do something. Yes, listen to authority. And to an extent, yes, that's what makes civilized life possible. At the same time, though, question everything. So I'm going to have to go with disagree. But then again, you also have to figure discipline also could mean self-discipline. Does this mean discipline from an outside source, or does this mean discipline from just discipline in general? So I'm going to go with disagree. But yeah, that's, self-discipline I'm actually a big particular fan of. Discipline equals freedom. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Strongly disagree. Yeah, I know the whole moral relativism thing, it's a thing that exists. I'm not a fan of it. I know cultures are different to an extent, but some cultures throw gay people off of roofs. I'm not a fan of those guys. I'm just not. You can call me whatever you'd like, but I'm sorry. Some cultures are just objectively better than others. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society and something, I don't know what that, or something, it's a typo here, should not expect society's support, basically. I actually strongly agree with that. If you are able to work, you better pull your own weight. If not, I don't know why we need to basically subsidize your lifestyle. It's not the government's job. It's not society's job. It's your job to be responsible for yourself. Now, if you can't, I understand that. And I think we should have a social safety net of some kind. But it very explicitly said there, if you are capable of working, you should, if you are capable of working, you should be working. And yeah, there you go. It's your responsibility to, handle your own lifestyle. When you are troubled, it is better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Strongly disagree. Yeah, solve the problem. You have a problem, just solve it. And then you move on with your life. And then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So yeah, procrastination is probably the biggest cause of misery in our society right now. You have a problem, you fix it, and you move on with your life. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I strongly disagree with that, actually. If you are a first-generation immigrant, you can totally embrace life in a new country. Some of the most proud and voracious Americans that I know are people who were born in other countries. So yeah, you can absolutely be a first-generation immigrant and be fully integrated within American society or any other society. I know about American society since I live here, but that's just my opinion on that. That's what I know best. What's good for the most successful corporation is always ultimately good for all of us. Well, I disagree with that because, look, corporations do a lot of good for society. They do provide jobs, they provide goods and services that people want, otherwise they wouldn't become rich. But that just, as soon as you put in the always, not always good for us. They could be, taking advantage of a tax loophole that might screw us over. And, there's some other circumstance that which they, either screw us over or they don't really have any real effect. So to say that it's always ultimately good for us, no, I have to disagree with that. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I actually agree with that. Stand on your own merits or don't stand at all. It's not society's job, it's not the government's job to subsidize your particular endeavors. public broadcasting or otherwise, regardless of its political affiliation as well. And how I see wider society, page 406. Our civil liberties are being exclusively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Oh, dear God, yes, Patriot Act. Yeah, not a big fan of that one. I understand you're going to have to trade some security for freedom, but you know what? I'd rather live with dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. That is an advantage. So by the wording of this, I would agree in principle. However, they could be progressing in an incredibly stupid direction. Communism. So yeah, I'm going to have to disagree on the principle. Yeah, I strongly disagree there. Yeah, really, I want my political system to be as combative as possible and as slow and gridlocked as possible, as counterintuitive as that may sound, because that way, if something does get passed, if something does get done, yeah, it means something that there's broad public support for, and not just one party, ramming home some sort of ideological, stupidity. Although the electronic aid makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. Privacy, Fourth Amendment. Yeah, I don't think I need to explain that one. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I actually agree with the death penalty. Now, I think it needs to be implemented different. It should be implemented less often than it is now. However, at the same time, I really think it should be carried out immediately. Like these jack wagons that have been going around with these mass shootings. Like the guy in Colorado, I think about a couple months ago, he was found guilty of the Aurora shooting guy. He was found guilty and he's sentenced to, I think, life in prison. Just drag him up back and shoot him. The guy, Dylan Roof, little shit stain that he is, just drag him up back, put a 12-gauge slug in the back of his skull, and be done with it. He's using up good oxygen. Just do it tomorrow. The evidence has to be overwhelming. So the burden of proof at this point would have to be massively overwhelming for the death penalty. But at that same token, once it's been implemented, once it's been approved, just bang, just do it. In a civilized society, we must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I agree. Now, that does not mean I don't believe the people beneath have any particular... they should have rights. I mean, that goes without saying. I think that should be pretty clear right now. I'm a pretty big fan of the Constitution and all that. However, there is always... It's a natural part of the human experience that we are going to have some sort of a hierarchy. It's just the way things are. And to go against that is just it goes against the natural order of things. I mean, there's always going to be, people are going to be on top of each other. One person can be on top of another person in some sort of social hierarchy. Now, that does not mean that the person above should become a cruel, tyrant at all. No, I'm not a fan of tyranny in any particular capacity. Actually, I despise it. But, there's going to have to be some sort of authority, otherwise civilization will break down. So I slightly agree with that. I mean, there should be there should be a couple more options here. But, yeah, I'm going to have to go with agree. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Strongly agree. Like, you put a soda, like I have a video on this. Link is in the description. Yeah, look, you got to put some effort into your art, otherwise it's not art. It's scribbles on a page. Art means you got to put some effort into it. And I'm not understanding it. Yeah, I don't want to hear it. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. They're both equally important. You have to, punishment as a deterrent, yes, to an extent. At the same time, though, recidivism rates are astronomical in the country. So I'm actually going to say disagree. Yeah, if the person's going to be getting out of prison, we want to make sure they stay out of prison. So I'm going to have to go with disagree on that one. It's a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Yeah, some of them just need a 45 or a 12-gauge slug right in the back of the skull. So I'm going to go with agree. Not all of them. Most of them can be rehabilitated. A lot of them just let them rot in jail or just put a bullet in the back of their head. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Well, that's a pretty loaded question. Business person and manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I believe in the free market with this. I just believe that, you put out whatever it is you create, whether it's a book, a piece of artwork, a manufactured product, whatever it is, and let people decide what is more valuable based on, they just vote with their wallets. But, I'm going to go with slightly disagree. But, yeah, it could just, it's a market thing. I'm pretty neutral about that. I don't know. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Disagree. I believe people, women, anybody should just, well, actually it says right here, it's not women, it says mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Well, if you are willingly producing another life, you take ultimate responsibility. You can have careers, but at the same, see, this is a very loaded question right here, now that I'm really breaking it down. They're mothers, that means they already have children. They may have careers, yes, absolutely, they can have careers. I have no particular issues with, my mother worked, and that's, sure, I have no issues with that there. But their first duty is to be homemakers. Well, homemakers implies that they're not having careers. So they can have careers, but they also can't have careers because they're homemade. I guess the ultimate question is, if you have children, this is true for both parents. Your first priority as a parent is to raise those children in the best possible way you can. Now, you do need to, have a job so you can, pay for them. I mean, that goes without saying. But that is the most important thing you can do once you choose to have children. If you choose not to have children, that's perfectly fine as well. You can go off and have a career doing anything you want. I couldn't care less one way or another. That being said, once you choose to have children, that should be your number one priority. So I'm going to say slightly agree, but the context behind that. Multinational corporations are unethically exploiting the plant and genetic resources of developing. I have no idea what they're doing. I have no idea. I know nothing about this particular subject. Yeah, I'm just gonna. Are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I'm sure there's some shady stuff going on there, so I'm going to say agree. But really, it's not something I've really looked into all that much. So yeah, there you go. Whatever. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. It depends. I mean, always question, like I've said before. Always, question authority. Never fail to scrutinize anything, even if it's on your own side, especially if it's on your own side. If anything, you should hold your own side to a higher standard than you do the other. That being said, there is a rally when you're 50 years old and you're still out there protesting about corporations, man. Shut up. Peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Yeah, sometimes you just got to suck it up and get on with life, Okay. Ooh, religion. Oh, this is going to be fun. Astrology accurately predicts many things. Strongly disagree. It's complete and utter BS. You cannot be moral without being religious. I would say disagree. It's possible to be moral and not be religious. The two are not necessarily together. However, religion does provide a backdrop for which morality can spring. So yeah, I mean, morality, they're not directly connected, but there is a correlation there. Yeah. So charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree. I am in favor of local voluntary solutions rather than a bloated government organization that is massively indebting us to a disturbingly high degree and ultimately is going to lead to the ruin of all of us. So yeah, local charities voluntarily run are vastly better than anything the government can possibly do. Some people are naturally unlucky. Now, if you mean unlucky as a supernatural force, luck and lack of luck as a supernatural force, no, that sort of thing doesn't exist. Sometimes people don't just have a string of bad luck. And no matter what happens, these things tend to manifest themselves. So I'm just going to go with agree, just because some people do have repeated, bad things happen to them. But, I don't think there's some supernatural force like luck or fortuna or whatever it is that the Romans called it. No, I don't think that that's really a thing. It's important that my child's school instills religious values. No, I'm completely in favor of separation of church and state, because, whose church is it? I am Russian Orthodox. I wouldn't like to be instructed by, say, Calvinists or Sharia law or Jewish law or Hindu law. And I'm sure everybody from those particular religious sects would not like to hear about, what Orthodoxy has to say about things, at least not in a publicly funded environment. So, religious values, that is, I believe they're important, vastly important for people. That being said, I don't think it's the state's job, and school at this point would be a state thing. It's not their job to do that. Oh, a look at sex. Oh, this is going to be fun and totally not awkward. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. I agree. Look, everywhere you go, the single motherhood rate, where there's a high single motherhood rate, there is absolute chaos within that community. High crime rates, high dropout rates from school, just poverty, the whole works. And yes, look, the three things that people need to do to not be permanently poor in the United States. Number one is get a job. Number two is graduate high school. No, first is graduate high school, then you get a job, full-time job. And number three, the most important is do not have children outside of wedlock. You do those three things, you will not be permanently poor in the U.S. So, this sort of thing is definitely a factor in that. So, I strongly do agree with. Well, not strongly agree, but I do agree. Birth control, I have no particular issues with. So, but I figured let's stop the problem right where it starts. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Should not be. I agree. Yeah, I'm fine with gay people adopting children. I have no particular issues with that in and of itself. All things being equal, I'm if they're sane and competent and everything else, I'm cool with it. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I agree. Now, I don't think pornography is a good for society, and you should really not look at that stuff if you can avoid it. But at the same time, who am I to say what you should or should not do in the privacy of your own home? Again, as long as everybody's consenting adults, and as long as everybody's okay with it, what am I? We got bigger fish to fry. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the states. I strongly agree. I'm fine with whatever people do in the privacy of their own home, as long as, again, I have two main things about people's lifestyles. Number one is everybody's a consenting adult, and everybody's there voluntarily, nobody's getting hurt. The other thing is I don't have to pay for it, and by I mean the taxpayer, because I pay taxes. So as long as I don't have to pay for it, nobody's getting hurt, everybody's consenting, I don't care. Do whatever you want. It's really none of my business. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I strongly disagree. People are naturally homosexual. I think that's pretty obvious. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. That's an interesting question. I think sex and sexuality and all that stuff should be an open topic for discussion, within reason, of course. I mean, it has to be in an appropriate time and place, of course. Decorum, people, is a thing. At the same time, though, we should be able to discuss things. Also, though, I do say our society is a little bit oversexed. Everything is sexual, everything is, not everything, but, it comes up all the time. I mean, I used to watch Game of Thrones, and I just got rid of TV. Plus, I read the books are better anyway. And it just seems like every other scene, like there's a nude scene for no reason. And like, I get it. I'm not a prude at all. I understand nudity, you know, if it drives the plot of the story forward. But after a while, it's like, okay, I got it. Daenerys, she has tits. Okay, I get it. Like, plot, people, plot. Let's not include this with every aspect of our lives. You know, like, let's not just shoehorn it in there for the sake of it. So I'm going to agree that it's gone a bit too far, but, you know, it should be openly discussed in an appropriate context. All right, so here we go. Introduction, blah, blah, blah. Scale, okay, blah, blah, blah. No one cares, no one cares. Oh, look, of course, he's got to have Hitler. Oh, he's, you know, of course, he's a right-wing super authoritarian. Here's Stalin. Gandhi down here, yeah. Milton Friedman, Margaret Thatcher, Maggie T. See, and right here, this is, see, look, it's a perfect level for the helicopter. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Huh, I'm a right-wing libertarian. I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm a 5 on the right-wing scale, 5 out of 10. And on the 5.5 out of 10. And on the libertarian scale, I'm a 1, 2, 3. I'm a 3 libertarian. So a 5 right-winger, 0.3, 3 points libertarian. So yeah, that seems pretty accurate. I'm generally very socially conservative. I'm a very conservative person in my personal life. I generally don't think, though, that I want the state involved imposing this will on other people. So I think that's just seems pretty reasonable. Actually, well, look. Oh, look right here. See, look, here it is. 2.87, and economic right. Yeah, the economic left-right is 5.5. The social libertarian authoritarian is 2.87. Yeah, it's late at night, people. I'm not focused entirely. Yeah, so I'm a right-wing libertarian. Do whatever you want. I personally hold right-wing views. I just don't think the state should impose them on people, generally speaking. Yeah, free markets, and just basically everybody stays out of everybody else's way. So now that you have this as a background for my political views, hopefully I'll be able to, well, hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from whenever I talk about politics. You have this as a good baseline. And that's pretty much it for today. I've been here. This is easily my longest video ever. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So hit the like and subscribe button. More videos of both sorts, both Rob's Wrong Think and my normal stuff will be coming out whenever I get around to it. And in this case, you know, whenever somebody does something sufficiently stupid that requires me to respond to. And yeah, that's it. Have a good day. Or don't have a good day. You're adults. Have any kind of day you want. See you later.